Harriet, you know, there's all this stuff going on, but you know, these very high-powered marketing and business people still think it's difficult to expect consumers to choose one product over another merely because it has a more defined sustainability narrative going along with it. Is that right, do you think? And are you disappointed?
Oh no, I think it's completely right, and I think the public are right to expect as good quality, as easy availability at the right price, whether it's sustainable or not, to be honest. So I think the public are right to expect companies to do the right thing on sustainability just as much as they do on quality. And there should absolutely be no compromises. And in a way, those were some of the early mistakes, I think, when people first dipped into sustainability. They made it the sort of hair shirt version as opposed to the crown jewels and taking them down the sustainability path. So I think that's right. I think the strength of public support is pretty phenomenal. I mean, we just did some research which found that 40% of the public say they will actively seek fair trade. And they're not just saying that. Sales grew globally last year by 12%, despite the recession. So there's a very strong headwind of support.
Sorry, again, so to interrupt, it's not just people being asked in the street, would you like, you know, farmers in poor countries to get a fair deal? Because they're not going to say no, are they?
Exactly. When you get 90%.
They're not going to say, no, I want to grind their faces in the put. I want a cheaper chocolate bar. You know, they're not going to say that. It depends how you ask the question.
Absolutely
but
not.
There's actually figures that back this up in terms of sales.
At 12% growth right across the world, and including in quite mature markets, leading markets like the UK, where sales were, as you said, 1.3 billion. So it's got real traction, and this is not marketing blah blah. This is really the public acting every day and showing that they're ready to put their money where their mouth is. I think the challenge is still a big challenge on how we then talk about this to the public. And I think there's sometimes been a mistake first to produce products that people thought were for a sustainable niche. And now that's people have shifted away from that and are making their mainstream products fair trade, sustainable, environmentally friendly. Then the question is how we talk about that to the public. And I don't think we've really got there yet. Some of the brands who do it brilliantly, I would say, are Ben & Jerry's, because it is all the time about having fun, and so it's having fun to save the planet and prevent climate change as well. I think Cadbury Dairy Milk, being a laugh and a half, is also that joy that is also part of all their advertising. They've then also taken that over to fair trade. And I can give you another wonderful example, actually, which is you were talking about small companies doing these things. Well, I'm not going to embarrass this beautiful company by lifting my skirt, but here's a great brand called Life's Not Fair, but My Knickers Are. So if you can bring sustainability into being funny in that way...
I have to say this is a first for UK trade and industry, ladies and gentlemen.
I hope not the last.
Where did you produce that from, Harriet? I'm sorry, terrible curiosity overcame me then.
I always carry them around in my pocket. Made of fair trade cotton, but not trying to say, oh, isn't it awful, how terrible, you'll have to wear terrible fair trade cotton and save farmers. No, it's just saying, let's have a laugh, let's have fun about it. And I still think we haven't got there in marketing. And it's something Richard's spoken to me about before. You know, what if only we could get James Bond driving a green electric car? Maybe the helicopter could have been a green helicopter at the Olympics. But take your mainstream marketing techniques and apply them to sustainability, as opposed to saying, here I'm marketing my mainstream products, and over here I'll go all goody two-shoes, because that will put the public off. And they want to be inspired and energized by stories and by fun and by, as Rita was saying, their celebrity heroes, on sustainability as much as they do on the mainstream marketing of the brand.
Richard, because I want to open this up to the floor for the last bit of this session, but I mean, can each of you address perhaps that subject, but also the, you know, to a cynical journalist, how far right through the company, each of your companies, do people buy into all this? I mean, as far as Marks and Spencer's is concerned, wasn't it a bright idea of your last chief executive stroke chairman? I mean, to what extent is, I don't know, the department store manager in Camberley bought into all this?
I very genuinely have been amazed, because 5 years into this, we've all worked in corporates, I'm sure, or big organisations, to have a change program that still exists 5 years on, to have a change program that's grown significantly 5 years on, to have a change program that's survived the baton handover from Chairman and Chief Executive to new Chairman and Chief Executive, which has been embraced by a new management team, is extraordinary. And I think for me, it's been about connecting people's beliefs, heart, what they believe as individuals or people, with what they can do as members of an organisation, to connect head and heart. I mean, Harriet has a lot to do with us. How would you appraise? This is high risk, isn't it? How would you appraise?
It's high risk for both of you, if I may say so.
Degree of embedding that's gone on.
Oh, I think it is exemplary, and I mean, they've made a commitment that every product will have a Plan A attribute. That's a pretty phenomenal commitment, and you can look at areas where Marks and Spencer's have absolutely delivered, and also, we have to be honest, there are areas where we've struggled together. It's not that we're beating up Marks and Spencer's and saying, why don't you do more fair trade cotton? It's across all the fashion industry, we're struggling to say, how do you put sustainability right into the heart of a very fast-moving, very price-conscious industry? So I think we'd absolutely say Marks and Spencer, absolutely they're in the leaders.
David, what about Tesco's a famously no-nonsense sort of corporation? Those hard-headed, ballsy people of both sexes down in Cheshire, they all bought into this?
Hard-headed and ballsy is a clue that I'm not going to ask Harriet the same question.
I was waiting to see your underwear, actually.
That would be too high risk. I think two things. One, John's point about leadership. Now we began our sustainability journey, particularly on CO2 reduction, under Terry Leahy when he was CEO. Now, if people in the organisation knew that Terry was serious about it, then they would get after it, whether that was the store manager in Camberley or the property director or whatever. The second thing is you've got to guide people on what is sustainable. So there's no point the commercial director for non-food saying, I'm going to make my sustainability contribution by selling a whole load more patio heaters so that people can sit outside in the garden. So patiently, you've got to sort of help your colleagues, when I led sustainability for Tesco, to understand that we do want everybody to make a contribution, but it's got to be in the right sort of way. So you've got to provide a little bit of help and information on how it should be done. But leadership, I think, I agree with John's point earlier, is absolutely crucial in any organisation.
John, all those guys and women in your vast organisation, they all signed up to all this, or is that the leadership challenge?
Well, it starts with leadership, as I said. We started on our journey 6 years ago. One of the key things we did, we have a very clear roadmap of how we do business and what we aim to achieve. And our aim is to be the best beverage sales and customer service company in the world. We do that with strategy 1, best brands, led with this one. Strategy 2, best customer relationships, like the ones we have over here. And 3, best people in a truly diverse and inclusive environment. We made a conscious decision 6 years ago not to put sustainability as one of those 3, but rather to put it across all 3. We actually have a little Coke bottle and it says sustainability is our business. We don't think about any single item, whether it's a marketing investment, a capital investment in a factory, some new promotion. We don't think about anything without thinking about the sustainability characteristics and components of that decision. And what's happened over 6 years, we do an employee engagement survey every 2 years. Sustainability is now, it's inextricably linked with everything we do, and it's now the second most important driver of employee engagement, surpassed only by leadership and vision of where the company's going. And it's up from 6th to 2nd in 6 years. People understand it, they believe it, they take incredible pride in working for a company that cares about sustainability and that cares about the future of the planet. And I think they understand also it's a journey. It's not a destination where there's no end point. It's a continuum, and they're glad to be part of it.
Tim, what about your company? I was about to say companies, but you have been, your responsibility indeed, integrating Cadbury into the Kraft Corporation. I mean, how far does it, down the organisation, does this go?
Well, I think similar to what John said, it starts with leadership, it starts with total company strategy, and I certainly won't take you through the 5 key strategies of our company, but I will tell you, and we're very proud, that one of the 5 top strategies of our company, global strategies, and certainly here in Europe and UKTI, is around protecting the well-being of our planet. So it starts with, is it a fundamental strategic imperative of your organization, along with building loved brands, building lasting customer relationships, et cetera, and it clearly is. Like John, though, I have to say that one of my very pleasant surprises has been, in the last year, I have an opportunity, as I'm sure my colleagues do, once a month I get together with a random collection of 20 colleagues around Europe over coffee and chocolate, of course. And it's simply a, you know, what's on your mind, an opportunity to get the pulse. I will tell you, in every single session, the notion of sustainability, what are we doing, where can we do more, how can I help, what's our latest commitments in this area, et cetera, it comes up every time. And so similar to John's experience, I can tell you that the tertiary benefit or the hidden benefit for business here is as an engagement tool, as an employee or colleague engagement tool that builds, just as John said, I have a very similar experience, it builds real pride in the company above and beyond all the great stuff a company would normally do. And I think increasingly, you know, think about our children and the way that they're raised in school and the educational value being placed on that. I have 2 young boys. It's increasingly important. And so as you think about employer of choice and as an employer brand and as a place where people feel like it's a great place to work, that commitment to sustainability will also play dividends in the engagement arena.